Hello everyone, and welcome back to Hexen, Deathkings of the Dark Citadel. Today we are going to play Hub 2, Constable's Gate. So from the get-go we have two options. We can either go to that door down there, or we can take this mountainous jumping path that's in front of us. Or we can try to get to that gem. That gem is ultimately the goal of this hub. And I'm gonna try to use these boots of speed that I acquired from the previous hub to jump there. It's a little fiddly, but we did manage to get the gem, so that's lovely. This entire hub is more or less gonna be in the theme of what can we do out of order. And that is more or less what we're going to do, because it makes the hub a little bit more interesting, I feel, than the regular route, so that's what we're going to do. Since we managed to get the gem, we can now deal with these remaining horsies right here. So far not really a big deal. I'm trying to keep the ones on the floor here alive for reasons that will become obvious in a minute. But for now, I'm actually gonna try to keep all but one of them alive, I suppose. Well, one alive, the rest not so much. But first, that requires a little bit of axing around. I need to get rid of that lizard right there. There we go. And now, let's deal with that one and only have one alive. I'm going to use this one to jump over here to explicitly not go through that big wooden door. There's a reason for that, which will become obvious in just a moment, but for now, just assume that there is a scary thing that happens when you walk through the door regularly. And I don't want that to happen, so we're gonna do this a little bit simpler. First, let's deal with the remaining enemies over here. That's a little bit more damage than I wanted. Two knight statues, one with a Crater of Might, one with an Afrit inside it, and one more Slaughtar, which I called Chieftain a lot in the previous video. I think they're actually just called Centaur Leaders. I'm not 100% sure, but either way. Now that that is done, let's go look at the little horse that should still be here. Deal with that one. Oh my god. Strong horse. Very impressive. And we're gonna walk towards the door and then immediately run to that corner right there. Because this'll open up that door, and if you look carefully, you can see the hands of an Heresiarch from Hexen. And I, as per usual, am a fighter and don't want to fight him properly, so we're just going to throw flechettes until he goes into a pain state. And then we can do as much damage to him as possible before he does this attack, where cubes surround him and we can't damage him. So we're just going to go over here. That's Yorick's skull floating over there. We need to collect 3 of those to continue in the hub. But since we picked up that gem earlier, I can just place that there. That button ends the hub. It takes you to hub number 3. And this is flight, so that is just a lovely little bonus that we get from the get-go. And now all we have to do is just kill the remaining enemies and we'll be done. So, a pretty nice start. Since we have waited for a while, he is indeed once again hittable, rather than all my projectiles flying all over the place. While waiting for those cubes to once again go away, I'm gonna actually go to the top path here. Normally, you can actually just jump this. Just jump from bit to bit. An Afrit woke up, apparently. Yeah. And you can jump all the way to ultimately this part. And if you get all the way here, a wall will open up and show you a secret passage. Which does allow you to just play the level as per usual without immediately having to fight the Heresiarch, so that's nice. It is very much an alternative path. Get rid of all these serpents. And you can then jump down there to reach the rest of the level, really, so that's nice. But we have, once again, waited long enough. I'm just going to use a Mystic Urn real quick to heal up. And then we are going to fly back to the Heresiarch, who should be nearing death. There we go. Watch out for the cubes he drops, because they will explode in a very violent fashion. Those ones right there. And with that, that's the first scary part done. I'm not going to use flight too much, just because it really does trivialize everything. You can skip so much with flight. It's wonderful. But, like I said, we are probably going to be doing a couple things here and there out of order. First of all, let's pull these switches. It is going to summon some enemies, but also open up a door. That door right there, the one you can see the candles in right now. I will be going there in just a second, but let's just deal with these enemies first, as they are a little bit of a bother. I should also mention you can't open this door from this side. You can open it from the other side, so you can actually just lure a lot of the centaurs outside before the door opens regularly, and that way you can deal with the heresiarchs some other ways. You could probably actually just open it and then just run all the way over here once you have cleared out this whole courtyard area. I haven't really tried, but that should probably work. Anyway, one of the sub-goals of this hub is to collect the steel key and the axe key. And when you place both of those, it will open this wall right here. But it's also just a door, so these are optional. That's wonderful. This is the first entrance, and first of all, I'm just going to open up the passageways to the entrances of the remaining levels that we can access. And then we'll just be going back there and go through this level. But first of all, walk forward, open some doors to some ettins. No real concerns. This room tends to have a respawned enemy inside it. Enemies can respawn in this room, so sometimes there's a centaur or something like that in here. But as it stands, it seems that none of them respawn in here, so that's nice. Move along. The interesting thing about the other path as well is that you get like a slightly different experience from all the puzzles, because now we have to pull this switch, which will open up the room to a lot of enemies. And there's a bunch of switches here to pull, and that will open up this door. Whereas if you take the other path, you're already on the other side of the door, and there's just a button, and you can just skip doing all of this. Which does, at the end of the level, potentially put you in a position where it's not immediately obvious what your options are, but we'll get to that at the end. For now, we're just gonna move on. Clear these remaining enemies. This button right here would have opened the door that we just opened by pulling all of these switches. So this button now, I think, just does nothing, which is fair enough, I suppose. A couple of stalkers in the water, which you have to look out for, but I'd like to take care of these first. There is still a decent amount of quartz flasks, I would say, in this hub, but it certainly feels like it's either less than in the first hub, or the hub's just more difficult. These bars are closed at the start, so we're gonna have to find a way to open those. And again, if you take the other path, you will actually be on the other side of these bars, and there's a slightly different way to open them up. It's all pretty neat. It's actually pretty cool how they did that. They give you options, but if you do fall down the mountainous path, I suppose, then there isn't really a way to get back up without flight, so that is a little unfortunate. Watch out for the many chaos serpents right here. There is a couple of them trying to shoot you through the window, but no worries with our trusty hammer. Very nice. And I believe one more Slotar, or regular centaur, not sure. This will open up that teleporter, and this will open up the bars that I showed previously in order to get to that next section. The arrows are pointing to it. The teleporter will take you to the second entrance. Ordinarily it would be the first one, but because of that door being what it is, we can instead just go through this teleporter now, so that's nice. Moving along though, I want to get to the third and final entrance that we can still access from this point. There is a couple more stalkers. I think some of them respawn as well, so be a little careful about that. To my knowledge, there's nothing quite as silly respawn-wise as there was in the first hub, so that is kind of nice. You can deal with these enemies by just jumping. I have said previously that I find this a bit tedious, and I still do, but it works out this way. And over here would roughly be where you would end up had you taken the other route. So from here, it means there is also a way to open up the bars that we were seeing earlier in the water, and this button or valve will lower the water. You can pull this valve as well, which will just make the bars lower again, and you'll trap yourself in here. But if you pull them again, it's a reusable switch, and also now there's an arrow there, so that's nice. Anyway, as I said before, this would be where you would end up had you taken the mountainous path and heroically jumped down. It would have crushed the glass, and you would have been able to jump right in here and get a piece of quietus. Gives us a little bit of extra mana to work with, and there is a percolator here as well. So now you get the idea. Well, going through here, I think this opens up at some point. It doesn't really matter. There's one hit, and then there's nothing really scary going on, so that's not a worry at all. Because we lowered the water with one of those valves, we can now go in here, where there is a closed door, some closed bars, many a stalker, and another valve we can pull to open up these bars. Going through these bars will let you traverse all the way up to another portal in the distance. I think this is the one we actually saw earlier, because there is these health power-ups here as well that you could see from the other side as well. Push the switch to open the closed door that is right here, and that will lead you to the third or second entrance in this case. Ordinarily, this level and the level right here would have the steel key and the axe key that you would need to traverse to that third level, but again, because the door is just a bit odd, we don't have to worry about that, and we can just go there immediately, which ultimately saves a little bit of backtracking, so it is kind of nice to just do it like that. So that's exactly what we're going to do. This is the Ordeal. There's a bunch of Corax walls over there, just for fun. I'm going to use 2 discs of repulsion right here. As you can hear, there's a couple enemies behind it. There's actually a decent amount of Ettins, and if you use some discs of repulsion there, usually a lot of them will start infighting with each other and you don't have to worry about them. We got our boots of speed back that we just used. There's a couple wizards here, but probably nothing to worry about. If we jump up here, some Afrid spawn. So let's deal with that. And behind the stained glass, there's a couple corpses. And a couple of entrances. I'm going to use my torch because it's a little bit dark in that area, and we never really use the torch that much. Jumping up here, we will see an old enemy, the Reavers. Everyone's very good way to die. They are very powerful enemies still, and they concern me a lot, but ultimately I am trying to go for all kills. This time I will try to not skip any Knight's Armors as well, but again, that was just a little fun secret. There is a icon of the Defender right there, which will give us a little bit of invulnerability when we use it, so that is wonderful. And I think that's just about everything here, just a bunch of Reavers and an icon, but the icon I'd say would be worthwhile regardless. You can use the corpses instead of flight. I really am trying to not use flight as much as possible, but at the same time, there's certain things that are just so nice. Right, there's a trap here. I tend to forget about it. A lot of wizards, they're all currently deactivated, so none of them will attack me until they're properly activated. You can move them around, but I would like to keep them in place as much as possible, because it can get a little dicey otherwise. You can only really barely move them around. Like if you hit them with the hammer while looking sort of away from them, it's a very odd interaction, but they just sort of float into the nearest wall. But then you get situations like this where it can be a little bit tricky to actually attack the enemies there. But just for fun, let's run all the way forward and then all the way back again. Try not to die. The icon of the Defender is probably not a terrible choice here, because once you get to about the middle of that hallway, all of them will wake up and immediately start crushing you with their attacks, which is not great, but we survived it, so no worries. Did use a couple of quartz flasks there, so we'll probably replenish those in a second. There is a couple of lizards right there as well, which is a little concerning, but it's probably going to be okay. I forget if there's health up here, actually. I think there's like crystal vials, yeah. So might as well go for those. I really am trying to conserve my health as much as possible and trying to just use whatever is available, because it is kind of a tricky hub. It's a tricky one, especially if you don't know where you're going. And if you do know where you're going, it's quite significantly less tricky, but still certainly kind of a scary time altogether. A couple of these sometimes activate at kind of weird times as well. Like, not so much that they're completely invulnerable, but they just don't see you for some reason. I'm not sure what is actually blocking them there, but yeah, sometimes they just don't feel like it. Sometimes they're just walking forward as well rather than attacking. I think all the rooms are just like slightly too thin, and then they just keep walking until they are in a place where they feel like they need to stand still and start attacking again. It's kind of just an unusual quirk about Doom AI, and I truly do not know enough about the subject to give a good opinion about it. First of all, though, let's just clear the remainder of these lizards. a couple of them behind these windows. Slowly but surely. We can get everything here. For the most part, because we got those wings early as well, we can just try and go for all of the kills most of the time. This one we have to revisit one more time later, but it's kind of nice that way. There is a secret door here. And the secret door is a little unusual for reasons that you're not going to guess or expect. So we'll get to that when we get to that. For now, let's just see how it opens and more importantly closes after a little bit. And I'll give a little bit more of a detailed explanation once we have reached the end of this here hallway. Just gonna make sure that we have cleared most things here. So, this is an interesting one, and this one really hurt us a lot in co-op because we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. But if we walk towards this walkway, there's going to be icicles getting shot out of that wall. And also there's some afterits at the bottom of this pit. And also you can actually just fall down the bottom of this pit. I'm just going to float down because we have flight anyway, and there's a couple enemies down here. But it's not that deep. There's some ammo in here, and there's a button that lowers an elevator so you can get back up again. So all in all, not too dangerous. But there is some danger over here. I'm really trying not to use flight here, but yeah, the icicles are a problem. You can survive it with just running forward and trying not to take too much damage. You'll, with quartz flasks especially, you'll usually be fine. But it's a little bit miserable. We can use discs of repulsion to just run forward and try not to take damage that way. A nice side effect of that is that you're also sometimes going to push lizards into each other. And they'll take a little bit of extra damage there. There's a secret wall here-ish? I think there was. There used to be one. There's one over here. There we go. Which also allows you to attack some enemies a little earlier than usual, so that's nice. And similarly, there's another wall over there which has a sort of misaligned texture that you can open by shooting at it with your trusty hammer. And we can deal with these lizards a little bit easier. I should probably just be using these discs of repulsion to get rid of these projectiles because that's a pretty good use of them, and it is a fairly effective way to make sure you don't take damage. But I didn't. Another way to get past this walkway with the icicles is a little trick I like to call having flight, because as long as you're not technically on the walkway, you're not going to trigger the actual trap. So that is certainly a nice little bonus for having flight. And then I got stuck on a wall and nearly died to a serpent. So perfect. It all went exceptionally well. I don't know if there's any more of those crystal vials here. Actually, there is at least one, so that's okay. Moving on, there is a couple of Ettins here. I think usually some wizards as well, but maybe they spawn later. No, they're just not awake immediately until you enter the room, I suppose. Fair enough. You don't really need to worry about mana too much in this place because there is a lot of it. There's a bunch of combined mana in the back here as well in case you need a little bit more. But I'm just going to axe through everything. I don't really want to use my sword too much because, again, I did say you don't need to worry about mana too much, but the sword does use up so much. Having said that, later on we're going to use it aplenty because some of these levels just have a lot of mana going on for them, so that's nice. Over here is a portal that will take you out of the level. There is a cool looking wall over there. If we pull all of these switches here, then it will open up that wall to show a couple more wizards, but also it'll give you another one of Yorick's skulls, which we will need for a puzzle later. So that is wonderful. Right behind here, there it is. If you grab it, I should also mention, I guess, once again, that in co-op, picking up the skull will open up something. I didn't fully look into it. I know there's a script that says if in co-op, open this wall when you pick up Yorick's skull. I think it probably just blocks off the way to one of the places where you have to place those skulls, so that's kind of interesting. But again, co-op specific. It's very unusual. Also, over here we have a slightly trapped Dark Servant. If you touch the corner or just try to go in there, a Crusher will stomp down. But you can make it stomp down without actually getting stomped by it. And as long as you then just run into it, you're usually fine and you can grab the Dark Servant without issue. There is a locked door here. We'll have to come back for that later. But also, I did mention earlier that there was something odd about that one secret wall, which is going to come into play now. We might as well kill some wizards as well. Although, it doesn't look like any of them respawned here. This one is now permanently open. And if we press the use key on it, it will actually close again. And on itself, that isn't too interesting. But for some reason, that door is attached to the door that also houses Yorick's skull. So once you close that, there is actually no more way to properly open this outside of opening that wall and then quickly running here, which I don't think you can actually do quick enough. So if you did that, somehow, it's a very specific interaction, but you can technically get soft lock by not picking up Yorick's skull there, so that's a very specific thing to worry about while you're playing this level. But we got the skull, we can move on to the actual ordinarily first portal in this hub, which is the one that is right over here. Right over here. Through the teleporter and through this portal right here. Now, as you can see, right from the get-go, they put the Starship Enterprise on the floor. That's a nice little detail, isn't it? Also, there's some wizards, and once again, if we use flechettes, we will not actually wake them up immediately. So that's a nice little bonus of using items. It will not wake up enemies, so you can actually take care of a couple of them like this. And you actually have a use for your flechettes, so that's nice. But after a while, we will just start shooting them. Every single one of those knight statues also has an enemy inside it, so be a little wary of that. They're all wizards. And with that, we can move on. There is 2 doors, but both of them are barred from the outside. This is actually kind of cute, because it's very much not obvious what happens here, but if you go through here, there's actually an Etten blocking the door. And if you kill that Etten, the door is then openable. And I think that's just a really neat detail that I really only noticed once I started fiddling with scripts. I genuinely did not make that connection at all, that that's what was happening, but yeah, you can just blow through the window and do that, so that's cool. Moving on, we're gonna take the right side here because there is a lot of fireball shooting centaurs coming in our direction, and I want to take this as carefully as possible because quite frankly these enemies hurt a lot. Also, the door is barred. It's the same on the other side as well. There's just an Etten that's blocking the door there, and yeah, it's still cute. It's just a cute little thing, isn't it? Anyway, let's go take care of these 2. If you are trying to do this normally, which is that you don't know that the axe key and steel key are optional, then one of the 2 keys is up here. It is the steel key. It is hiding on top of this little platform. And ultimately, our goal for this level in particular is to once again try to get Yorick's skull. There's 3 of them. We have to collect all 3. You can also destroy stained glass to get up here, but you know, we have flight, so let's just make life easier for ourselves sometimes. You can probably, and I haven't really successfully done this, but I assume that if you jump on that enemy, jump on this pillar, and then jump through where that Slotar is, then you could probably skip a decent chunk of this, because Yorick's skull is inside this structure, but it's currently somewhat inaccessible, and I say somewhat because you can't just jump there from a certain location. But for now, it's more or less inaccessible. Let's be honest. It's a little bit blocked off for sure. There is also just so many fireballs coming your way through this level, and it is very easy to get hit by something you didn't quite see. It's a little fiddly to hit these enemies from where they are as well. They're all in these tiny little windows. And it's sort of tricky to get the hammer to go where you want it to go at times in these places, but we are going to take some time here to get rid of some of these enemies because it does get significantly less dangerous once they're dead, as you can probably imagine. But as you can see, half of my hammers are just going in straight into the wall because my auto-aim just not feeling it today, which is unfortunate. Sometimes they just barely stop attacking at the baddest of times, and it's a mess. But once we're done with this, we can start moving on again, so that is wonderful. There's only so many in this... Well, there's a lot in this building, but there's ultimately only a limited amount of them in this building, so that's, you know... It's nice that we're not here permanently, I suppose. Let's grab ourselves some ammo. Let's ignore the lizards for now, as there is plenty of danger coming our way. And let me read my notes at the same time to make sure I'm not missing anything. Strangely, this is the hub that in my co-op playthrough some time ago, it actually probably stumped us the longest, and ultimately that's just because we found a soft lock by accident, but we were also just kind of trapped on just puzzles and things, and it really took quite a while before we were done with it. Notes-wise, I barely have any. It's actually, once you know what you're doing, you're just kind of going through the motions, which is interesting, because it genuinely was the most stumpiest of hubs for some reason for us. It's very unusual. Anyway, like I said, you can just jump into this structure, and I do mean from here. It is a strafe jump, and back then those weren't as popular, I suppose. But you can strafe jump from here. It's once again a little fiddly, but well, I did it in one attempt, and it's not that hard. Usually, if any jump happens in one attempt, then either it's like in the intro, where I just did the intro 15 times until I got it right, or it's just not that difficult, and this is the latter. But in case you cannot make that jump, we'll just move forward here. We can press this switch. This opens up several doors to several afrits, which we're just gonna axe away. Behind here is some cool looking walls, probably nothing to worry about. I will grab my sword just briefly, just for fun, and kill a couple of these Ettins with the sword, just to get myself a little bit more space to work with here. Pressing that switch will open up a couple things. I think it opens up the staircase to that area as well. As here's a cool little fireball puzzle where you can try to dodge. It's not really, they don't really deal that much damage, so you can just run forward. But once you press that switch, it will also open up this area right here. And walking into it any further will open up this door. You can press this skull switch. You can go all the way back to the start of the level, where two doors open. Oh my god, there's some Slothars here, which I did not anticipate. That's unusual. Yeah, that is actually kind of unusual, but fair enough, I suppose. Let's just take care of these. But they're gone, they're fine. These doors stay open for a long time as well, so you really don't have much to worry about in terms of time, but eventually they do close again. It is a reusable switch. Going through the teleporter, you can actually access some of the Chaos Serpent areas that were behind bars that we killed earlier. And we can grab some extra pickups. And through this portal. There we go, the door is closing again. And we'll block their passage to this little optional area. Interestingly enough, once again, you don't need to use that switch to get here. There is a window on this side as well, and again, it is a little fiddly, but you can certainly make the jump here, no problem, and just skip that strange button to get to that optional area. But there is stairs here now that we have done that whole thing. We can just make sure that everything here is gone. And over here, there is another Yorick skull just sort of floating in the ether. Very unusual. But that is the third and final one that we need to continue further in this hub. So that is nice. This door is now also open after we did all of that, which will take us to the exit of this level. And there's a little bit of a defensive measure here, but we can just hammer our way through with relative ease. Ettins respawn, that's not too bad. You can kind of tell what respawns as well just from the first sound you hear after you attack once after a respawn. That's kind of nice. Kind of keep track of what's going on and can make life a little easier. So over here we have two doors. We also have a switch right here, which will open up the path to two teleporters. This teleporter doesn't have a cool teleporter sprite, but it is one. But over here there are also two switches that will raise a platform that will have some enemies on top of it. Let's deal with the enemies first. Otherwise, they hang around near the teleporter, and that is unfortunate. I'm deliberately not dealing with the Ettins right now, because there is some Afrits in a pit. I didn't mean to go in there. Trying to get rid of this Chaos Serpent. There we go. Oh my goodness. This is why I need a cool teleportation sprite, because I'm going to run into it by accident otherwise. Repeatedly, apparently. But let's push this. Let's go through the teleporter. We now have access to that portal. But I'm going to fly over this pit for a bit. I'm going to fly over this pit for a bit, because there is 4 Afrits on each side, all the way in the bottom. It takes a while for them to get back up. And I don't really want to fly all the way down. So, as long as we're missing 8 enemies, then we're fine. Right now, we are missing 13. My god. How many times can a person accidentally run into a pit? I do not know. But let's take care of the remaining respawned Ettins as we wait for the Afrits to come up there. Might as well try and grab whatever pickups remain. We are missing 10. 2 more enemies should exist somewhere. I'm playing with my volume slightly lower than I did last time, because it was blaring last time. It was pretty much why I was screaming the entire time the previous episode. And this time I'm not, so it might be a little bit more difficult for me to find the enemies. But as you can see, a whole barrage of Ettins or Afrits has appeared near the exit teleporter. And that is that. So let's take this and leave, and that is 1 level fully completed. With all of these Yorick's skulls, we can move on to the next level. Thought there was a stalker there, but I think it might have been my imagination. The next level, of course, is right here. Ordinarily, once again, if you are doing a playthrough where you are not aware of secret doors being opened, there is the Axe key. That's the second key you need to open up the portal to the level called Ordeal. And with that, it basically just saves having to walk there and then immediately leaving the level, because there's nothing else you can actually complete here. So it just makes life a little bit more obvious in terms of where I'm going and what's going on. So I think the path is just a bit nicer in general. But let's go over here. There is a couple of mages. There is a switch here that you can pull to also make a bunch of reavers spawn, but also it opens up some trees that were blocking the road here. There's going to be a lot of reavers here, and it's going to be miserable, so just get ready for that, I suppose. But first of all, we just press those switches and move on. There is a bunch of graves here that you can interact with. Here's one of Kevin. They all just have little bits of flavor text of classic, you know, old-fashioned writing. I know that once I am dead, my grave will say, "Can you do all the scripting in my level?" And I will not elaborate further. It's going to be a great experience for specifically me, and that's good enough. There's going to be just so many reavers here. It's going to be kind of miserable, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go left first. We're just going to follow the left wall to the first statue that's missing a head. We're going to place one of our Yorick skulls on top of it. And I'm gonna use flight here a little bit more, to be fair. It's just gonna make the fighting a little bit easier. And I've earned it. I've worked hard for that flight. It's a difficult jump. But it honestly, it just simplifies things a little bit. It's definitely not a necessity. With flight, you can also just fly to that middle platform and basically just skip all of it, because the castle key is in the middle there. So you can just fly to the middle there, grab the castle key, and just move on. But let's just do it the old-fashioned, sort of regular way, just with a little bit of hint of flight every now and then. Over here, there is also another grave that you can interact with of Ben. Thank you very much, Ben. Very good. And let's go inside this tomb right here. Over here, there are 6 doors. Behind each of them is a Chaos Serpent, and occasionally also some Afrits at the top area right there. We're just going to deal with all the Chaos Serpents one at a time. We do need to clear all of them. I'm just keeping an eye out on my left in case a mage appears, because it does happen sometimes. But just be careful of fireballs and you should be okay here. Once you have dealt with 5 of them, not 6, it's going to open a door and it'll say "Beware the Spider's Tomb." You can deal with these many Afrits. There is indeed a wizard right behind me. They teleport, they respawn silently in this level, which is cool for Reavers, because they have a cool intro animation. But the wizards don't. They are just suddenly silently behind you, and that is a little unfortunate. Let us deal with this for final serpent though. It will also say beware the spider's tomb. That's just how the script works. When we pull this switch, you hear a platform rise outside, and the spider's tomb is hidden behind here. If you grab the shield, it will slowly open up this tomb right here with a porculator inside it. And oh god, what is happening? Why is everyone going inside this tomb while I'm trying to explain things? There's a lot of enemies here, actually. Very unusual. Anyway, here's the spider's tomb. If you walk over these spider legs, and it'll say, do you feel lucky? And if you press on the grave, it'll spawn 4 buttons. It is random which button is the good one. I tend to go with this one first, just the closest to the wall there. If you don't have flight, just get your chaos device ready, because if you guess wrong, suddenly 8 Reavers appear. And you have to deal with that, and dealing with them in that room is not great. You can also just use an icon of the defender. But honestly, if you have flight, just fly back up here and try again. This is an optional area. You don't need to do this, which is good, because it's horrible. It's just a random guess on a button and hope you get the right one. So now we're going to go for the right one. I am fairly consistent at guessing wrong 3 times and then getting the right one, but oh god, I'm tempted to actually use an icon of the defender here, because I am blowing through these quartz flasks right now. Also, I'm out of green mana, which is arguably worse. So let's just axe through these. So when you get the right one, you get mana, and that's good. Hey, we got it. Alright, another nice thing is if you keep pressing this switch, it's just gonna keep spawning more and more ammo. So there's just infinite ammo here now, and that is wonderful. Also, it opens up this teleporter, takes you back outside to the top of this place. There is one more grave here that you can interact with. It doesn't have a special sprite or anything, so that hence the message. That's kind of cute. And with that, we can go to this raised platform, which we raised earlier. Grab these health ups, pull this switch, and get 1/3 of the puzzle solved. There is also these 2 teleporters over here to take you to where the Afrits were previously. And they house some armor and things, so all in all not too bad. Our AC is pretty good now, and that will keep us alive. There is, however, yet more Reavers awaiting us, so that is somewhat unfortunate for sure. But as long as we're somewhat careful, we'll probably be okay. So once again, gonna follow the left wall here. There's a Reaver behind me, I think. I just have a hunch. I don't know, don't worry about it. Let's just keep following the left wall. We once again place Yorick's skull on the thing. We can deal with the many Reavers that spawn whenever you do anything in this level. And I think there is one just right above me or something. It's some weird stuff going on in terms of projectiles that I'm not fully capable of explaining. But I am trying to deal with all of the enemies here. I could just fly to that tower and grab some more ammo as well if I need to, but I don't think I necessarily need to right now, so that's nice. There should be 2 more graves here that I can interact with for some fun messages. One is over here from Chris, which is referencing, of course, to the classic band, the Sugar Babes, and then over, I think, here there is one as well. Yeah, all the way over there. There's one that looks a little bit different. Brian, who says Vorpal with some symbols behind it. Of course, referencing to Alice in Wonderland's Vorpal Edge, or yeah, probably, right? These things all have withstood the test of time. Let's just pull this switch. It's going to open up 6 doors. This is kind of a neat puzzle where I wasn't really aware that there was a puzzle at first, but I did accidentally solve it, which is how it tends to go with certain games like these. But there is 6 doors right here. With all of them have wizards behind them. You might have been able to tell what's going on, but all of them have a lit torch except for this one. All of them have fake walls, but this is the only one that has a fake wall that actually leads somewhere. I'm going to use a torch again because this next area is dark and miserable. And we're just going to kill these remaining wizards. There's another Icon of the Defender here. This is actually not optional either, this area, so just to let you know. Once you grab the Icon of the Defender, a whole bunch of wizards open up. There is a Reaver behind me somehow, so that's new. Very exciting. Not very pleased about that, but fair enough. We're just going to hammer the remainder of these wizards until ultimately we can pull the switch and solve the second part of the puzzle. And we're almost done here. It's going okay. It's going fine so far, so I'm not overly bothered. Pull that. 2/3 of the puzzle is solved. It actually keeps track of how many things you've pulled. Love that. Always happy when they pull that extra little bit of effort in there. And it is a bit random when they do. But fortunately, we have gotten through that relatively unscathed. We actually got through that just fine. We're getting a use of all of our torches, so that's wonderful. Finally getting some use out of that. Once again, follow the left wall. Put our third head on top of a statue. The final of Yorick's Hydra-like heads. And we can go on to the third part of the puzzle once we have cleared out another 1 billion Reavers. It shouldn't take too long. They do die fairly quickly at least, so that's nice, but there's just quite a lot of them. Over here we have two, well, sort of two graves you can interact with. One is right here. Shane, yeah, there you go, with a cool sound effect. Over here is a small hole. If you don't have flight, you're stuck now. That's it. You can't leave that place unless you have a chaos device. So watch out for that. It happened to me in my co-op playthrough along with all the other horrors. I really just I piled up all the horrors on top of each other when I first played through this chapter, and it was really unfortunate because there is quite a lot going on, but there's just all these minor unfortunate things that can happen which really ruin your day. Anyway, Shane's grave is over there. The second one is right here. Let no blood be spilt, and let no hand be raised in anger, except towards these Afrit, that's actually fine. Also, it doesn't really matter what you do here, as long as it's a ranged attack. As long as you just attack this grave with a ranged attack, it'll say sacrilege, you have defiled Eric's tomb, now you die. And if you do that with a melee attack, you'll take 1000 damage. And you'll be dead. But if you do it with a ranged attack, it doesn't work. I assume, and this is very much an assumption on how this scripting works because I'm not 100% certain, but I assume that the thing that activates the actual script there is the projectile rather than your hand. And so it tries to kill the projectile instead of you. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's really the only thing I can think of for why that wouldn't work. So, yeah, it's just odd. There is also a hole over there with a quartz flask behind it. We can put a Dark Servant here and just use him as a stepping stone, but we also have high flight and things, so that's nice. So we can go in this area right here. This is not necessary. There is another way to get in here that doesn't require shenanigans or flight. But this is certainly one way to do it. Plus, it allows you to kill a couple of mages in a slightly less awkward position. Plus, it actually allows you to use some more of your flechettes, because over down here, there's a whole bunch of Ettins, and you can just throw some bottles at them and make sure you don't have to deal with them later, so that's nice. Plus, there's some flechettes down there anyway, so you get some use out of it, so that's nice. An alternative way of getting there is by just going through here. As per usual. It is once again a little dark here, unfortunately, but just trust me when I say there's enemies here that I'm attacking presently. There is 4 corpses. One over here, one all in these little alcoves right here. When you destroy these 4 corpses, it will open up the wall that leads to this same area that we just flew into, so that's nice. Then over here, we have a whole bunch of corpses. Technically, you don't need to destroy all of them, but I'm just doing this for the purposes of demonstration, because once you throw one hammer, they all explode. But you need to destroy basically just not the ones on the outer edge if you don't want to destroy them all. But destroying those corpses will then open the door to this next area, which has the 3rd switch which rather than say the puzzle is solved, it will say the crypt is open. So that was in fact the end of the puzzle, in case that confused you. You can now jump in here, where the castle key awaits us. I will deal with some of these Reavers first though, and I will activate my flight once again, because this is where my patience runs really thin, really. I just don't want to deal with these Reavers normally, because they're miserable enemies that are not a fun time. So we're just going to take it nice and slow from a distance with flight and just outfly them. And honestly, it's the best way to deal with these bastards, because they hurt so much if they do manage to hit you. And otherwise, it's just a matter of just waiting on the floor in one of these big open areas, and you can just wait for them to come to you. And usually that works fine, but it's just a little bit slower, and I don't really want to wait for it. But slowly but surely, we are getting through the army that has spawned at this point. There we go. We can grab some of these combined mana pickups as well. You can kind of jump to these ordinarily, but it's very fiddly. I mean, you can do it probably from the central part here, actually. But it's a lot of jumping back and forth. It's not great, honestly, and I prefer not to do it if I can avoid it. Anyway, the castle key is there. It is quite heavily trapped. A good way to do it is to just grab a chaos device and just get out of there immediately after grabbing it. Because once you grab it, I'm gonna jump to this corner here. I took a decent chunk of damage there, but you can just barely jump on top of this. And then stand against the pillars here, and you'll be safe from danger. But it's a very fiddly jump, and honestly, it's not worth the effort. It's probably better to just use a chaos device and get out of there. We're missing one enemy, apparently, and I honestly do not know where. So I'm trying... Oh, there you go. I was going to say I'm trying to play this a little bit quietly, but we found it eventually. Now we're looking for the gray statue, as that's where the start of the level is. And then Reavers respawn and ruin your day. Honestly, that's usually how it goes, but this should be the last wave of Reavers. They should hopefully all be outside, but we still have 5 enemies to deal with now. And that's okay. That is the downside of making up your own rules for challenges like these, that you have to deal with these enemies as well, but fortunately a lot of them are outside, so that's good. Maybe all of them, actually. Is it all of them? Yeah, it is. Wow. Alright, that's actually a really nice respawn, given the potential. Because I think there is one that can just, like a wizard, that can respawn inside one of these crypts as well, and it's just kind of fiddly. But fortunately, we lucked out on that one. Anyway, gray... gray statue, that takes you back to the start of the level. Let's grab these quartz flasks and this torch, and let us leave. That is another level fully completed. From here, we can go all the way back through the teleporters to the Ordeal, where we previously needed that castle key. We can now... Did I get this key? I didn't actually get the axe key. It wouldn't do anything. You would just see another button being pressed, but it's... I showed where it was. I just forgot to grab it. It's ultimately irrelevant because it doesn't do anything. If you have opened that door already, it doesn't do anything. But it might actually give like a little bit of a lighting effect or something, but that's, I think, all it can realistically do. Is there an enemy in here? There is. That's unusual. Anyway. Let us move on to the castle key door. It is, as I mentioned previously, it is right here. Push the button. That will open up the big golden door. There is a not obvious graphical thing going on with the ceiling here. I think it's just a missing texture. With flight, it is a little bit easier to see as well, because you can just fly up and down like this. I think it's neat. And over here we have a Chaos Serpent and some fireballs. You can just strafe run through this, and then the fireballs stop and you're good. You can use flight as well, obviously, which helps out a little bit. And there is quartz flasks inside these little things as well, so that's nice. Keeps you alive. I like to have as many as possible of these. I think I saw a Chaos Serpent here just a second ago. I did, yeah. There is also some stalkers in these waters. Sometimes? Maybe they respawn here. That's unusual. I've definitely seen stalkers here before. There is a teleporter here, but it's blocked off. We can press this switch to unblock it. There is, I think, also a decent amount of ettins in this room. It just summons a whole bunch of enemies when you press that button. And I thought I saw an heaven, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just starting to imagine how these levels worked. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna go through these enemies. This should spawn some stalkers, I think. Unless I've really just misunderstood how these stalkers... Yeah, there's one. They do appear here sometimes. I promise you, I'm not lying about the stalkers. It would be a strange lie. We're missing one enemy? Never mind. We're missing 0 enemies, so with that, we can move on to the Treasury, where there is, once again, a decent chunk of stalkers. An interesting part about this level is that if you have flight, you can just skip all the way to the top and just skip this entire thing. Another interesting thing is that the secret level entrance is in this level. And you can definitely get there in a way that's probably not intentional. It's kind of a weird jump you have to do, but it's certainly not impossible. I'm not going to bother with it, because why would I have flight anyway? But also I'm just going to try to show off as much as possible how to do this. Somewhat normal while still like giving you the options, you know? It's nice to have options every now and then, and this is no exception. But let's move on. There is still a stalker in these waters, I think. I did run into one. I'm not sure if I killed it. But this start is pretty hectic. There's a lot of enemies at the top area that are just shooting down the entire time, and they can catch you off guard a lot. But I think we're doing okay here right now. That wizard needs to die. That is near a secret level entrance, I think. There's a bunch of serpents up there. There's one waiting for us up there as well. Slowly but surely, everything dies. Torch, sure. That wizard is apparently not too interested in coming to us, so we're just going to attack upwards and move on. Now over here we have just a big staircase going up. Let's pull this so there is actually a staircase, because it's not there immediately. But the goal is, as I said before, to just go up, and that's why flight is so good here, because you can just go up. There's nothing stopping you from just going up in the central area and just flying all the way to the top, you know? So that's certainly a way you can deal with this level, which is it's an interesting choice, but I am also trying to get all the kills, and that does require a little bit of going through the level normally, of course. And we're just going to do that. Over here, there is yet another switch. It's a very linear level if you do it like this. It's just going up at some places, killing some enemies, going through a door. It's very difficult to actually get lost in this level, I feel, which makes for a nice change, honestly. It's just a fun little action-based level. I actually really like it, because they're honestly fairly rare in this game at times, and it's a nice change of pace, honestly. Bunch of quartz flasks here as well. I'm just gonna leave them here. I don't really want to waste any of them, and it's nice to be able to come back to them later, because I will use a lot of them in the secret level, probably. It's very difficult, I feel. And there is an instance where the secret level is recommended, but that's only if you accidentally softlock yourself with an elevator. There's also a bunch of knight statues here, and 3 of them have enemies inside it, I think. Nice little outfits right here. There we go. Let's grab some health here as well. Really trying to preserve these quartz flasks as much as possible. I do recall the 3rd hub being kind of tricky as well anyway. Ooh, but that's low health though. That is a scary time. Trying to stay alive here. I know there's still... I think there's still a serpent here, right? Yeah. So there's one switch there that we want to press. Which I will get to in a second. I'm just going to use a quartz flask. Why not? There's actually a lot in this level anyway, so might as well use them from time to time. That chaos device right there, that's the end of the level. So if you're looking for the end and you have flight, just go there and you'll get it. This is what I mean with you can technically just jump to the secret level, because there's a sequence of teleporters that you can take at a certain point, but you can jump to that one right there. It's tricky. That one's actually a pretty tricky jump, but it's not impossible. It doesn't require boots of speed or anything. It just requires a very specific type of jump, and if you can get the jump, then you'll be able to go to the secret level, so it's honestly kind of nice. But let's move on. There is a bunch of doors here. All of them lead to mostly nothing, or except for enemies, really. But some of them have switches. There's 2 switches that we have to pull to move on to open the closed door that is blocking us right here. That is blocking the switch that I want to press. So let's just go through these remaining doors to make sure we get all the kills and then move on. There is so many flechettes on the way as well, so I'm happy I actually used some items for once. Because it's rare. I tend to not use too many items, but I probably should use them more. But let's just hope that we need all of them in Hub 3 and that it was all a sensible decision that I planned ahead. One more switch, that's the second one we need to open that one door right there. There's one door over here and one door over here. Both sides have a door, and that is lovely. Allows you some different choices, vaguely. Technically, it's a different choice of which door you want to go through. But at least it saves a little bit of backtracking, I suppose. Pull the switch, that will create a staircase over here. And this takes us to this place. Now, in my practice moments, I have used a icon of invulnerability times in this particular room, and I'm still not entirely sure if that's the route I want to take here, because the battle is not that difficult. It's just that there's a lot going on. Ultimately, we just want to get up there, and in order to do that, I think we just have to pull that switch that I walked past earlier. So let's just deal with all these enemies first. There is an Afrit here somewhere. There we go. Grab the sword. Pull the switch and then just deal with the enemies here while pretending we have all the ammo in the world, because quite frankly there's plenty of ammo in this level and we don't really need to pretend. There's a lot of combined mana right there as well. We have a bunch of Creators of Might as well, so we could just use one of those if we really wanted to. There's one even in the middle of the room. I didn't even realize, but there is some combined mana there anyway, so we don't really need to worry about anything. Instead, we can just move on. We can grab some extra mana right here. Watch out for the mini serpents here. This is another instance where everything's just a little bit too thin. All the walls are too close to each other, so the enemies have a tendency to just walk back and forth for long periods of time rather than attacking even on this difficulty. It's fairly unusual, but it is what it is. We can go all the way over here for yet another invulnerability. So that is neat if you need it. And on the other side, there is going to be a section of Ettins that we have to deal with that are also just walking backwards the entire time because they don't know what to do. It's all just too tight. And at the very end, there's going to be some wizards, and that's the point where I don't want to keep walking forward immediately because that's where things get a little spicy. There is apparently a Chaos Serpent there. Perhaps I misremembered, because I thought there were wizards here, but I guess it's just Chaos Serpents. It's ultimately fairly similar, I suppose. Anyway, once we've done that, I'm going to use one Quartz Flask, and when we walk forward here, it's going to lower everything, and there are a lot of wizards. We're just going to walk in that direction, and usually we should be okay. There's just a lot of room here to fight now. And no worries. I've had an instance here where there were still a bunch of Ettins alive and they were infighting with the wizards as well, but it didn't happen that time. Not sure what I did that other time, I suppose. But it doesn't matter. We're just gonna move on. That's a bunch of Afrits that just respawned. That's fine. They die fairly quickly anyway. I'm using a little bit more Quartz Flasks than I would like. But there is a lot of Quartz Flasks in this level that we still have to pick up also. A lot of Reavers here. Forgot about those. You have to fight them on stairs, which is the worst. But as long as you're somewhat careful about your choice of direction, you should hopefully be okay. There is also a bunch of Knight Armors in this room, which mostly contain Afrits. And somehow that one woke up. Often there is a Reaver in that room, which doesn't wake up immediately, and it can really catch you off guard. But fortunately, it didn't happen that time. This time, I'm going to make sure that I actually get all the Knight Armors instead of just editing it in later. Because I feel like it's a little bit cleaner at the end of the day. Plus it makes editing things just a little bit easier if I don't actually have to do anything, so, you know. Good stuff all around. Anyway, we are just about at the end of the level. There is that Chaos device. There is a wall here that we currently cannot interact with, and if we walk towards the Chaos device, this thing will lower. And you can use it as an elevator to go all the way back down again. Or you can use it as an elevator to go all the way back up, but it's not ideal. Basically, you know what, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's first just show off, here's the level exit, the regular one. There There's a couple of Chaos Serpents here that we just have to deal with. And there we go. Get some of our Quartz Flasks back as well. A little bit of health, no worries. So the normal way you do this is you jump down this hole to get the mesh armor, but that puts you all the way back at the start of the level. But that's required to get the secret level. However, the way these games work is that as long as you're just sort of on the edge, that's good enough. So once we've done that, if we walk here, this door will open and give you access to the secret level. However, I like mesh armor, so I'm just going to grab it since I have flight anyway, and I can do what I want. So with that, we can grab that. There is a bunch of stalkers alive as well. You can otherwise jump down the hole and use the Chaos Device elevator to go back up, but the timing is a little strict, and with stalkers there it becomes pretty much impossible because they will just block you all the way, and it's unfortunate. So I'd rather avoid it if you can. So over here is the secret level entrance, and this I think takes you back upstairs again. No, even further. Oh, nice. I guess maybe have I ever done this? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's either way. Let's just once again just go through these teleporters until we reach this one, and then we go into the secret level. I don't love this level. I'm not gonna lie. It's something else. It's very much in the spirit of secret levels. There is a Wings of Wrath pickup in here, which can be good. As I said, you can technically softlock yourself in a place, and the Wings of Wrath will save you from that. So if you have reached that particular softlock location, you can use this as an alternative, but it is a difficult level. And the difficulty kind of depends on how lucky you are, I suppose, as well, which is unfortunate. But first, we're just going to go through the hallway up the staircase that I just went up. Slowly but surely deal with these bastards. Let's just get some of those crystal vials that are probably still here. Very nice. First of all, there's a hammer here. There's one kind of interesting thing about this level, I suppose, which we'll get into in a moment. Go through the door. There's another part of the sword. There is basically every weapon is in this level, and ordinarily that's usually the case anyway, that there's just a bunch of different weapons for the different classes, but now there's also the weapons for the mage and the cleric for you available. Unfortunately, you cannot actually use them, they are just mana pickups. But we have pushed the first of 4 switches, as the game is so kind to tell you. 3 to go, but I haven't shown you the main course that makes this level a little bit more miserable. Once you press those switches, it tends to open up an area with like an armor pickup or something as well. This first one might not. Oh yeah, there it is. Which is good. But now we reach the more puzzly part of it. So there's 3 switches here. The rule of thumb is as long as you just press the left switch, you're going to be okay. I'm guessing that's going to be the same for the middle and the right switches as well. I have not tested it. I'm going to go with the left one. When you press the left one, it's going to spawn a bunch of enemies of A type in these cages, and it's going to move the maze around because there is another maze. But this maze is so much more deadly. It is a scary maze. The first enemy spawn that we got was Afrits, and honestly, that's about as good as it gets. So I'm fairly happy about that. Other spawns are mages, it can be wendigos, which is probably the worst because their projectiles just explode everywhere. You can get chaos serpents, you can get reavers, it's just misery. So yeah, honestly, Afrits, that's incredible. That's about as lucky as I've probably ever been in this level, and I'm very happy about it. We're just slowly but surely trying to empty these cages as much as possible. And when you press the left switch, it often only has just, I think it always just has one direction you can go into. Either the way back you came from, or, I guess that's 2 directions. Either the way you came from, or just the next area. So that's good. Also, here is the Wings of Wrath from the get-go. We don't get any benefit from them, unfortunately, because we already have flight, but it is just an extra flight pickup that you can have. And I can definitely use flight without worry now, because I picked it up legitimately now. Anyway. Truth be told, I don't know exactly where I'm going in this maze. I'm just pretty much following the path, and ordinarily that will take you to wherever the next staircase is, and as you can see right here, it has, so good. You can't really get lost in this maze. There's only just so many places you can go ultimately, so that's kind of good, I guess. This second part, however, I thought there would be more enemies here, but I guess we've destroyed them all from the outside, so that's nice. This is an interesting one. It's strangely quiet for what it is. I've played through this with practice just without music, and it's eerie, because this machine just doesn't make any sound. This is a strange choice. It kills all the enemies, but you can get Afrits to respawn in that room, and they don't take damage until they're awake. So if they're in their ball form, they just stay alive until you enter this room again, which kind of sucks. Getting through this, kind of a pain, but you can sort of just stick to the edges of these places. You have to press 3 switches. And once you've pressed all 3, you can leave. It's honestly not too bad, but kind of spooky. Just a little bit spooky for sure. Anyway, now that that part is done, we're probably going to have to return there at some point. I think a shield is here? Yeah. That opened up because we have pressed one of the switches in that room. Don't need to press all 3 for that particular shield, but I mean, oh, you might actually have to press all 3. I'm not sure. Either way, let's press the left switch again. Wait for the respawn. There it is, and the choice this time is Wendigos. From best to worst, this is misery because their projectiles will just explode everywhere, and you will get chipped to death so quickly. They shoot almost non-stop. It sucks. So hopefully we can get flight to help us out here a little bit at least, because their projectiles do just pretty much go sideways rather than up and down. So we got that going for us. But I'm not happy about this. I was so happy when we got Afrits, and this happiness has been decimated instantly because they die quickly. That's good at least. But it's so hard to see them because there is sets between sets of bars in between you and the enemy, and they keep shooting for a while longer than they probably should. So it's super dangerous. It really is a nuisance, and I'm hoping that we can get through this relatively unscathed, but quite frankly, I'd be very surprised. So far, things seem to be going okay, though. They're a little bit more visible than I actually give them credit for, I suppose. But I'm trying to get through this. God, I hate Wendigos. They were so underused in the main game, and now we're back in the heck pit, and it's... You realize why. Because they're evil. Because they are straight up evil enemies. But we're making our way through. It's okay. Getting through here, though. We should just about reach the next set of stairs, I assume. Indeed, we have reached it. Probably used one more quartz flask than I perhaps should have. But honestly, that went really well. I'm genuinely surprised how well that went with the Wendigos there. So, you know what? I'm going to take that. That is fine with me. There is still a wizard there. There we go. There is still a lizard up there. I think it might be... Nope. It should be dead now. Yeah, there we go. Let's just grab the sword just in case. But it's a little bit tricky to use in these narrow corridors, but it tends to explode hard enough to at least kill a serpent, so that's not too bad. Here's a room where if you don't have flight... Oh, this is not good. Not a good time for anyone involved. Not even this part, obviously, because well, it's a hallway, but this room right here. We're gonna take this nice and slow. Because there is a lot of Chaos Serpents here. If you fall down the pit without flight, you'll just die. It's death. So watch out for that. I'm just gonna activate my flight so I don't even fall at all. And we're very slowly but surely going to deal with all these enemies. There is also some Afrits at the bottom of this pit that take about a year, roughly, a full human year to get all the way back to the top of this area. So I would hope to wake up as much as possible, but it can be a little tricky for sure. There is, to my knowledge, not a way to get them up quick. It is unfortunate. I think enemies respawn, but I'm not really seeing much of it. This place can be kind of safe if you're just in the right location, and obviously if you have flight, it makes life a lot safer as well. But It doesn't take many Chaos Serpent projectiles to die. That's the main worry. There's a lot of pickups here as well. A lot of items that do help out ultimately. So in terms of trying to get extra consumables for the third hub, it's not terrible, but things can go awry so quickly. There is so much danger in these lands. Anyway, let's pick up everything. I will just swing around here for a little bit, try to wake up these Afrits as much as possible. Because they are so far down into the pit, and I'm genuinely not sure how far, where exactly I need to stand for them. I have the map on my left, on my second screen. So I have a vague idea, but this pit is not necessarily deep. It really is. Most people are never going to see these Afrits. But we have one switch remaining to get to the end of this level. Genuinely curious how long it would take to wait for these to come down. But I'm just actually just going to go down for them. Because they're not even close. They're not even close. Yeah, there's one. There's only 5 of them, so that's nice at least. That's 2, and then the other 3 will be on the other side. There might be one over here that I can get. No, maybe. Yeah, there's the third one. I don't think that one even woke up. I'm guessing that one just didn't wake up at all, and that's why it took so long to actually get to that one. That makes sense, I guess. And then the other 2 are on the other side of this. I mean, it's nice and peaceful for a while at least, so it's a nice change of pace, I suppose, but it's a little tedious, isn't it? Or... I heard him attack, I think. Is he above me? Is he above me? I thought I saw a projectile go down, but I might be losing my mind. Yeah, I think it's that. Oh, that's unfortunate. Just gonna keep going down again. That's fine. It's all good. I'm trying to listen to him. It is kind of nice and peaceful doing this, I guess, but... God, this is so much. It's so deep, and I've lost him. I don't know where he is. I hope that's not going to be a problem. I'm just not going to worry about it for now. At least he's no longer in the bottom. Okay, there's the projectiles. They're going down. There he is. Very good. Very nice. The strange troubles you run into in a playthrough like this. I literally have the map next to me of just this part of the level. I didn't need a map for genuinely anything else in this whole hub. The rest of it is just, you know, easy peasy, but that particular one, where did the Afrit spawn? That's the part I decided to dedicate most of my second screen to. Apparently there's a major. He did not see me. So that is a nice little convenience. There's probably a bunch of respawned enemies because I took a long time to go down a hole. But that's okay. We're just gonna go down here, grab the helmet. Slowly go back down, and one more time press that left switch. Grab a little bit of extra ammo here. There's gonna be a lot of mages here. One more respawn. I think that's Chaos Serpents, which is fine. Honestly, they don't deal splash damage. So honestly, I'm just gonna take it, you know? They have to get hit twice every time, and that kind of sucks, but honestly, as long as I'm just not getting hit like that, we should be okay. Just need to make sure where I can safely be. But once we are done with this, we can press the button one more time. It'll open up the entire maze, and that is wonderful. Just don't die, though. This is such an easy place to get panicked and die, is the downside of this map. Because you can't really run to that many locations, unfortunately. And then there's mages like that I can't even see because of all the bars. So much can just go wrong. It's very scary. What's up here? That was just a genuine curiosity there. I had never actually noticed those holes before, but I think enemies kind of respawn on these pedestals that go up and down when you press the buttons to change the shape of this maze. And I guess I just never checked up there before, but yeah, there's not much going on there as to be expected, I suppose. God, there's so many mages here. Where are you? Ooh, and my quartz flasks are running low. I'm not as happy anymore about these chaos serpents, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of a scary time, but I think this should be the last area. I think it is. There is a mage here, which is fine. It's also just a very loud map on occasions, and just getting those quiet moments is just a nice little reprieve, you know? Not a care in the world when you're running around in nice silence. Over here, there is a, whatever that is, a hand. And if we go closer to this icon, mage. And this is the part where I'm not overly concerned about my mana. I'm just going to use the sword on everything here. Because quite frankly, there is so much mana in this room. So many weapons. And also many mages. So it kind of works out. We can just attack them all like this. Get our mana back from all the different weapons and mana pickups. And we press the last switch, so the exit should now be opened. That is wonderful. We can leave here. We can grab an armor amulet. Yeah. And then we can press this left switch one more time. It will spawn enemies that last time as well, but it will open up basically the entire maze. Oh, we got Afrits again. Oh, that's incredible. That's actually really nice. We can keep pressing the buttons as well, by the way. You can just keep pressing the buttons forever and they'll just keep respawning enemies. But there's no real point unless you want to get your kill count high, I guess. Then you can do that. It certainly works. You don't need to just wait for respawning enemies. You can just make your own. It's great. Alright, so the exit is near the entrance of the level. It's right here. It's on the west side of the map. We're done. Alright. I'm pretty sure I saw that correctly. I'm almost tempted to just check one more time to make sure we got all the kills, but oftentimes you still have to walk around that level for a while. Oh, I could just risk it though, and then I'll just check in the edit later if it worked out, and if it didn't, then I'll just delete the footage and no one will have to know. But oh my god, if that was it, that's wonderful. It's genuinely great. We're missing 8 enemies here. But I'm just going to take my time going up here anyway to get as many more quartz flasks and things that we haven't picked up yet in this level. There's many places enemies respawn here. But generally, you can just attack once after opening a door. And if you don't hear anything, it means that there's just not enemies there. So that's at least kind of nice. Like that means there's enemies. And also, I guess a wizard. Maybe I just never entered this room. Also very possible, honestly. Which does increase the kill count. Oh, yeah, that's where the percolator is, I think. Yeah, I just forgot to get that. Yeah, that does explain how so many enemies were still missing, I suppose. That's unfortunate. But it's Etten, so at least it shouldn't be too hard to find, especially with flight that I can now use without a destroyed conscience. It's not too bad. Not too bad. Ettens make a lot of sound, and this level isn't that big, honestly. Especially with flight, you realize how tiny this level actually is. They made it really vertical, which is actually kind of impressive given what they're working with. So, yeah, honestly, it's interesting for sure. Didn't expect there to be that many enemies in that little corner of the world, but fair enough. Some enemies respawn in front of places where you go to when you go through the secret area teleporter, secret level teleporter sequence. So you might have to fly through those, because you can't just fly to all those locations, I think. For the most part, at least. Or at least you can look inside there to see if there's anything still alive. Oh, not too bad. You just have to go up here. Nope, that's where the icon of the defender was. Over here. Hearing a couple of Ettens still. Probably one near the end here, one behind me. 7 enemies, wow. Now that is a little surprising, but like I said, there can still be some stalkers, I guess. Theoretically possible. There's also just some Ettens still here. There is indeed a stalker. Several stalkers, actually. Several stalkers, indeed. Way more than I had anticipated, but sure, I guess. It makes life easier, ultimately. One enemy. Was there still a stalker? I don't think so. It's too quiet. Okay, that makes me think it's probably just behind one of the doors then. Because otherwise, I don't think I know where he is. Which would be a worry. Obviously not the worst thing in the world, but it would be nice if it can be avoided as much as possible. Over here are the doors. Not there. Not there either. I think I'm missing doors here, yeah. Ah. Alright. I guess I just never entered that room. That's unusual, but again, not impossible. I'm just vibing here. Alright, cool. We're done. Now this takes us to an interesting area. I'm gonna fly over some of these lava pits that are not obvious that they're lava pits, but trust me. Because there's once again afrits at the very bottom, and I got some stuff to talk about, so that's good while we wait for those to come back up. Watch out for the centaur here. So there's, I mentioned the soft lock earlier. You know what, I'll get to that in a second. First of all, let's just get all these things. Alright, let's begin here first. This door, it leads back here. I think on the other side, this just looks like a wall. So once you open it, it's just an open door, so that's nice. It is possible that you take the top route, you jump all the way around, and you never actually activate this switch. Which means that these pillars are all still here, and you'll be potentially stuck here in this little area right there. And that's one of the afrits that is all the way in the bottom here. If that happens, this will just be a wall. But you can make the wall disappear by stepping into this little alcove. There's nothing here. In Deathmatch, I think there's a helmet or something like that. But then suddenly there will be an opening here and you can actually get back to that part of the level. And that can be necessary. I'm also just going to go in here real quick because, quite frankly, I'm a little concerned. I'm getting shot by an enemy. I can hear that much. Very possible it's just above me, actually. Nope. Maybe? It is above me. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm pointing that out so specifically is because of reasons you'll see in a second, I suppose. If we take the elevator up here, it is going to take us to some afrits. If we get off the elevator as it's going down over here, it'll go back down again. And I think from this point, if you do it wrong enough, you can't get it to go down again. There we go. And from this point on, it's effectively impossible to get the elevator back in its default position, or let alone like here. So if you're like all the way down the elevator there, you'll just be stuck entirely, unless you have a chaos device. And if you do have a chaos device, you can use it to get back here, to either just get back to this part of the level, or you can use this teleporter to then go to the secret level to get flight and continue with your day, because that is a genuine situation that we ran into in our co-op playthrough. But you need to get up here to get that Heart of the Sparrow, the gem that we got about the first minute of the hub, because otherwise you can't leave. So it's a very specific situation, but I can say with confidence and with experience that it does happen. So it's very unfortunate when that does happen, but there is a way around it if you know the hyper-specific steps required to get out of that situation, because it is not obvious, and you need to know where the secret level is. Like, it's a whole mess is what it is. And that's really unfortunate, because it put a damper in my mind about just my memory of this hub in general. Because the only thing I really remembered of this hub was that we just kept getting weirdly trapped, and that it ended with us being soft locked for like 30 minutes without us really realizing that that is what was happened. We're still missing one enemy. But Yeah, it was a shame, and apparently it's avoidable. It's avoidable in many different ways, and it's actually fixable as well if you just know what you're doing. So yeah, it's unusual. Unfortunately, at the very end there, enemies respawn. Is there a missing texture as well? Did I just... No, I saw that wrong. Oh, is there Slaughtar's respawn? Are you serious? That's really unfortunate. I really would have liked if that didn't happen, but what can you do? It's like probably the worst respawn. I mean, the Chaos Serpent that was there is not great either, but... Slaughtar's just suck. They take so much time to kill. But it's okay. We'll just go through it. We're missing 6 more enemies. And after that, we can push that switch at the very end and leave the stage. Just making sure about the Stalkers, because Stalkers respawn here as well, as they did earlier. Which is, aside for Sore Eyes, I suppose, it's better than Slaughtar's, so I will take that. If I die now, I swear to God, I will actually be livid, but... Oh God, that dealt so much. I'm actually just going to use a Mystic Urn, I think. Still have a bunch of them anyway, I'm not using them. One more enemy. Is there a particular place where I haven't gone yet? Oh. Where am I missing one enemy? That's exciting. Oh, I know where I'm missing one enemy. Oh, that could be a problem. So there's another interesting thing about... Okay, never mind. There is another interesting thing about that elevator that breaks, is that I think enemies could respawn on it. But it worked out. No worries. We're done. Let's leave this hub now. There we go. Surely the souls of the damned inhabit this world, for nothing fair or good could survive here for long. But what has passed before can only be a pale shadow of what bars your passage now. The Dark Citadel itself. The grim bulk of the cathedral blocks all but fragmentary glimpses of the citadel proper. But what can be seen speaks in sibilant whispers of cold lingering death for the fortunate. And that concludes Hub 2. It genuinely is a lot better than I remembered, and that really is just because of the many unfortunate situations that happened during my co-op playthrough of the game some time ago. So it's genuinely pretty good, and it does do some interesting things. It does some cute things like the enemies blocking the doors and stuff like that. Like, it's genuinely not bad. It's sort of self-explanatory for the most part, and certain parts are barely hold together, but for the most part, it's a pretty cool hub. I kind of like it this time around, so yeah, there you go. Hope you all enjoyed it. Next time we play, we will be doing the 3rd hub of the game, and I hope to see you all there. Bye-bye.